What up, guys?
Oh, hi. Wait a minute. Who are you?
We are a bunch of passionate people, and we are here to share what we know about philosophy, science, universe, and life. And if possible, have a communication with anyone interested. Especially nowadays, it is really hard to find someone interesting. Because we believe in today's world, people are imprisoned by mass social networks, and they unconsciously waste their time just to have fun, but they get nothing at the end of each day. So, we decided to make giving information fun by using mass social networks. We know there are lots of sources more detailed and better than us, like articles and textbooks. However, just getting raw information is boring and not long-lasting. But don't worry, we distilled information from them and we made boring parts as interesting as people. So, let's get started. Today we are going to talk about Kant, who is known as the father of criticism. He is a very important philosopher in history of philosophy, and he discovered new horizons for his successors.
You can't touch this. You can't touch this.
But before talk about his philosophy, let's look at the age he lived, because we think that era he lived has lots of effects on his ideas.
On 22 April 1724, Kant was born into an environment where science came of age that era in history called Enlightenment. And the doctrine of that era was sapere aude, which means dare to know. Enlightenment shaped against scholastic thinking and its idea of ipse dixit, which means he said it himself, as referred to ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle. Briefly, we can say that Enlightenment broke the chains of mind and liberated humanity. There is another point should be indicated for understand the era. Just before Kant, Isaac Newton made a revelation in science. He is the first who used the mathematical formulation in natural science. By this way, human can be revealed the nature's mist easily. We could be able to put everything that happens in universe in an ordination and formed it as a shape that we could be able to understand. However, still there were significant questions to be answered on philosophical side. When Kant met with Newton, he thought that he should ground all this revelation in all fields: science, philosophy, morality, aesthetics. Of course, there is lots of points about era. What should we talk on, like determinism or Laplace demon? But for now, let this be the subject of other videos, and let's continue with Kant. When we look at his childhood, it can be seen that his education was strict, punitive, and disciplinary. It focused on Latin and religious instruction over mathematics and science. Consequently, it can be said that this education he received played a role in his efforts to justify religion and morality in the future. After childhood, in his early life, he was educated in Wolffian version of Leibniz philosophy under Martin Knudsen, a rationalist who was also introduced Kant to the mathematical physics of Newton. Kant was charmed by Leibniz and he wanted to study on the theory of pre-established harmony, but Knudsen dissuaded Kant from that, and he said that it is a pillow for lazy mind. He also dissuaded Kant from idealism, the idea that reality is purely mental, which most philosophers in 18th century regarded in a negative light. The theory of transcendental idealism that Kant later included in the Critique of Pure Reason was developed partially in opposition to traditional idealism. After rationalists, Kant met with Hume. In his own words, Hume was the philosopher who awakened him from his dogmatic slumber and gave a new direction to his research in the field of speculative philosophy. On the other hand, he still found that Descartes' rationality also had some positive aspects, and he was almost captivated by the way our minds worked when dealing with mathematics.
Now, whose calculator can tell me what 7 times 8 is?
Oh, low battery?
Whatever.
As a summary, the education that he had enabled him to think on philosophical questions of his time, especially conflicts between rationalists and empirics. So, let's see the results of his education by examining his academic life.
You're quite the science whiz. You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
When we look at his academic life, we see that he worked on various fields, such as physics, astronomy, and geology. And interestingly, he had great success on each of them. He wrote many books, but we are not going to examine all his studies. There are 3 books that we are going to think on. Our examination on this trilogy shaped around 3 questions. What we can know, how must we behave, what may we hope? We are going to answer these 3 questions in the final part of this series. So, first let's do some gossip on his trilogy and also few works. He released Critique of Pure Reason in 1781. Kant named it as a Copernican revelation against Hume's empiricism. But don't be excited by this name, because this is a very boring book with over 800 pages with a complex language. He also admits that, not just us. In general, readers had serious problems to understand this book. Because of that, Kant published a second edition of Critique of Pure Reason in 1787. Beside of all this meaningless critique that he made, this first critique is really significant to understand conflicts between rationalists and empiricists. Before Kant, rationalists and empiricists taught that there are 2 types of knowledge. For rational approach, it is named as analytic a priori, and for empiric approach, it is named as synthetic a posteriori knowledge. However, Kant showed there is a 3rd type of knowledge, which named as synthetic a priori, and he proposed that mathematical calculation fits it. After that, in 1788, Critique of Practical Reason, known as the Second Critique, and in 1790, Critique of Judgment, known as the Third Critique, were released. By those books, he applied the Kantian system to aesthetics and theology. Beside of these works, he had a censorship incident while he was trying to release the second of 4 pieces of religion within the bounds of bare reason. This book contains 4 parts and strongly criticizes ritual, superstition, and church hierarchy. After King's censor, Kant arranged to have all 4 pieces published as book, putting it through the philosophy department at the University of Vienna to avoid the need for theological censorship. Kant was reprimanded for this action of insubordination. When he nevertheless published a second edition in 1794, the king was so irate that he arranged for a royal order to require Kant never publish or even speak publicly about religion. At this point, we would like to talk about censorship's incidents date. As you know, in 1789, the French Revolution has been occurred. This event in France made the rulers in other countries uneasy. This kind of censorship was inevitable, as their authority was shaken. That was all we wanted to talk about other than the philosophy of Kant. To learn about his philosophy, watch our next video. But for now, take care.